Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cosmic Owl Astrology and Professional Aquarian. I am Louise Edington, the Cosmic Owl, Cosmic Owl Astrology. You can find my website at louiseedington.com, or you can find me online most places as Cosmic Owl Astrology. And my current offering is I have written what I think is a really good ebook that is free if you go to my website and put your name and email in. But also, I'm offering a lovely weekend immersion deep dive into the planet series. And there is an early bird price for that, and you can find that on my website as well. And I'll put a link below. And it's going to be 2 full days of really learning about series collectively, but also in your chart. It comes with all kinds of bonuses, and so go and check it out. It's building on my book that I self-published last year.
Hi, I'm Kathy Beal. My forecasts are at empowermentunlimited.net and my YouTube channel, Professional Aquarian. I also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Kathy Beal, where I have 45 to 60 second sassy daily forecasts in addition to all kinds of bonus material. That's all I'm saying today because I got lots of other stuff to talk about.
Yeah. So we're going to go and do, the breakdown of how the news is playing out in about everything we've talked about as things really are coming to a peak. And anyway, and then I'll go quickly through the aspects. And then we've got 3 charts we want to look at related to the news. So,
Okay, everybody, strap in. The center of February is the pivot point, and the news has been playing out. What Louise and I have been talking about actually for a long, long time, but the specific recent aspects that I have focused on looking at this, looking at what's been going on, are Venus in a clashing aspect with Uranus, so things having to do with sudden unexpected change or music or money or departures, a bunch of those. Neil Young canceled his European tour. The publisher of the Washington Post resigned after the paper cut 1/3 of its staff. The the chief of staff of the UK Prime Minister resigned. The Queen, over Epstein connections, the Queen of the Netherlands joined the Army Reserves.
oh,
Goldman Sachs' top lawyer, who is a woman, resigned in the wake of the Justice Department's release of email and other materials that revealed her extensive relationship with Epstein, whom she called Uncle Jeffrey, maybe even Jeffy. The performing artist Chapel Roan left her agency, Wasserman Talent Agency, because of the CEO's links to Epstein. Probably more will be coming from that. The Epstein survivors dropped an ad online during the Super Bowl. Now, I had said something would be coming during the Super Bowl. The big thing from the Super Bowl played out the Mercury in Pisces heading toward the North Node message, which was Bad Bunny's halftime show, all in Spanish, all one gigantic performance, all about unity and heritage. We could talk for the next hour and a half about the astrological significance of every single detail of that show. I will leave you with the parting message on the Jumbotron, which was the only thing more powerful than hate is love. All right. Federal court dismissed the DOJ suit for the Michigan voter records, and a court, at least temporarily, restored funding for the Gateway Tunnel between New Jersey and New York. Trump had cut because, how dare we be blue? The CDC announced plans to cut funds allocated to 4 blue states, and suit has been filed to reinstate them. It's for things like HIV support, health issues. Trump disinvited 2 Democratic governors from the annual White House dinner that coincides with the National Governors Convention. So several governors declined the invitation. The head of the bipartisan group said, then we won't, and none of us will go. So now apparently Trump is saying they are all welcome. Who knows what will happen with that? Okay, Venus entering Pisces. So the planet that rules how we get along with each other has entered this sign of universality on the day that the Buddhist monks who've been hiking from 1,400 miles or whatever finally reached DC. Here are a couple of cool ones. The Merchant's House Museum in New York City discovered an entrance to the Underground Railroad in a dresser drawer. And it's called
Ooh.
a masterwork of deliberate deception.
Ooh.
That's pretty cool playing out. Also, Ireland
Mm.
has launched a permanent scheme giving a basic income, a weekly income to artists. There's a lottery to apply for it. Um, More Venus, just more change. The Gallup poll has dropped measuring presidential approval ratings, which it's been doing for 80 years. We can guess why. Um, the House blocked,
I think we all know without the Gallup poll anyway. Anyway.
right, but why they chose to stop it. All right, so
Oh, I know.
the House has blocked the tariffs to Canada. That's a big piece of this.
Mm.
Now, this week until and for the next few hours while we're recording this on Friday the 13th, this week Saturn has been at the very last degree, very last minutes of the zodiac. So increased Saturn Pisces presence, and a couple of things that really bizarrely play this out. So Trump has become absolutely incoherent in a public statement. If you watch his statement about big, beautiful coal and being given his coal award, there's no telling what he's trying to say. It's completely incoherent. Um, This all corresponds with maximum stuff happening involving the Epstein files. The Oversight Committee got limited access to unredacted files, and a couple of members of the GOP actually made comments to the press afterwards. Boebert saying Maxwell should be in a maximum security prison. The rep who took Liz Cheney's seat, I regret that I didn't write her name down, was fixated on, really struck by the fact that there was a mention of a 9-year-old victim. So information's getting out. Trump's name, Jamie Raskin says, appears more than 1 million times. Maxwell appears before a committee and takes the fifth. Bondi appears before the Oversight Committee, and she gives angry, non-responsive answers to the point that Representative Liu called her out for lying to the committee on camera, and Jayapal asked her to apologize to survivors in the courtroom. She refused. And she also asked how many of the survivors who were there had been contacted or interviewed by the FBI or had not been, and they all raised their hands. And Raskin reported afterwards that they determined that the DOJ was monitoring the searches.
Can I just say one
Please.
thing about
Oh, please
her?
do.
Because, but what she did in that is a classic example of Darvo. And if people don't know what that means, it's deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender, which is psychological manipulation tactic used by abusers to avoid accountability.
That's Saturn at 29
Everything she
Pisces.
did. Exactly.
Yep. Calling a Harvard law professor.
Oh,
You're not a lawyer. Okay, yeah.
yeah.
But so the files that will
I
get
heard Jamie Raskin say, I think she had the wrong notes in her hand when she said that.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
think so.
sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. So then more and more stuff has been bubbling to the surface in this, and the files reveal that Les Wexner, who was the owner of The Limited and Victoria's Secret and Abercrombie and Fitch, owned the girls' clothing store Justice and transferred it to the Epstein Trust. And it's also become clear that the files mention a former executive of the parent company of Life Touch, which is one of the largest companies that takes school photos.
I use them with my kids, and we shopped at Justice, and I'm like, oh, at least I was with my kids the whole time for those things.
But this is indicating that
Mm-hmm.
they had access to an entire
Oh, yeah.
photographic database of what young kids look like.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
So, Norway's former prime minister has been charged with gross corruption over his links to Epstein. King Charles has said he would cooperate with criminal investigation into his brother Andrew.
Mhm.
Okay, hold on. Now, moving slightly out of that particular topic, the House passed voting legislation that would require a passport or birth certificate as proof of citizenship to vote. Not getting anywhere in the Senate. We will discuss the local implications of this in a minute.
Mhm.
The National Park Service removed the pride flag from the Stonewall National Monument, which is where basically you could say gay rights began. And in Greenwich Village, where the big Stonewall was the riot where the drag queens just said, we've had it, and they started throwing bricks at the police officers. I think it was after Judy Garland's funeral. I could be wrong. Anyway, New York officials immediately raised it again, so we'll see what kind of fight that leads to. Possibly, okay, a couple of really distilled versions of Saturn at the end of Pisces. So Saturn, authority, restriction, masculinity; Pisces, vulnerability, the people who can't defend themselves. Influencer Nick
Mhm.
Fuentes
Oh.
called women the number one political enemy because they constrain everything, every conversation, every man, everything. They have to be imprisoned. They are
Mhm.
the ones hurting the fertility rate. They're the ones making us sympathetic to poor people, which are also brown people. That last sentence makes no sense to me. It's a quote, but anyway. Okay, and then here's one that's like a little more benign, and it involves the boundaries and the water aspect of Pisces. The Coronado Hotel in San Diego has booted a man from the beach who has built sandcastles on the hotel's beach for 20 years after he used the Mark Twain quote, "Get the facts first, then you can distort them as you please."
Oh.
So he's moved up the beach. But that was okay. Astrology works in weird ways.
It
The,
does.
the top antitrust enforcer has left the DOJ over a clash over that's indicating that, that some of these big mergers are getting heavy pressure. Judge Boasberg, who's been very active in deportations, ordered the administration to facilitate the return of more than 100 Venezuelan men who were deported under the Alien Enemies Act and who are currently in countries other than Venezuela.
Mm.
The DHS has announced the end of its surge in Minnesota. Tim Walz has called for the federal government to pay for what they broke here. My understanding of the numbers is that really not very many agents are being taken off the street, so, watch that one. A federal judge appointed the U.S. attorney for Northern New York, which it's entitled to do under law, after they booted somebody who had been illegally appointed, and the administration fired the attorney within 5 hours, saying that a judge can't appoint the U.S. attorney when the statute says they can. I got a few more. Okay, here we
Oh.
go. D.C. grand jury refused to indict the lawmaker, the vets and the security people, the lawmakers who urged the military to follow their oath. And a court has issued a preliminary injunction blocking Hegseth's effort to demote Senator Mark Kelly's rank and reduce his retirement pay. And it's fun. See if you can go dig up that particular order because it is blistering. A few more things. The Senate Dems yesterday blocked DHS funding. They voted unanimously, which I find amazing because that includes somebody who usually votes with the Repubs. And so they're moving the government toward another shutdown. Few more things. The EPA revoked the endangerment finding that carbon monoxide and other greenhouse gases endanger public health and welfare. That's going to be big. The Health and Human Services canceled a $500 million in mRNA research and a $600 million contract to develop an mRNA bird flu vaccine. It narrowed the criteria for who should get the mRNA COVID vaccine, and it is refusing to review a completed study of an mRNA flu vaccine.
And can I remind everybody who did Operation Warp Speed that brought the mRNA vaccine into the world more? But anyway, the current apparent occupant of the White House.
Oh, and two more things. Back in the Saturn at the end of Pisces, RFK Jr. Said on a podcast that he's not afraid of germs because he had snorted coke off of a toilet seat.
I had seen that one.
And here's the late.
I'd like to point out that then he
Yeah.
got a worm in his brain, but anyway.
Well, and he eats roadkill, so, and
Yeah.
swims in sewage. And then the late breaking news from this was no, the development details. The whistleblower complaint against Tulsi Gabbard that we talked about last time. It has now become clear that it's based on an intercepted conversation last May between two foreign nationals about Jared Kushner, in part involving Iran. So that's a lot.
And we all know that Jared Kushner has been doing negotiations and things that he's not even employed by our government. But anyway.
No. But he's allowed to get, he can't qualify for security clearance, but he's allowed to have access to everything and anything in Moscow and Gaza.
Yeah.
This,
all the things.
All the things.
So I'm going to quickly go through the aspects. Just let me bring them up. There's a couple of things I'm really going to focus on that I consider important, but, Cassie, jump in if there's extras that you think of. So I actually am going to start yesterday because Mercury was conjunct the North Node yesterday. Mercury is now unbound from the beams of the sun, but is in the has started the pre-shadow of the upcoming Mercury retrograde. But I think this is important because the nodes are important during eclipse season. They are new and full moons close to the moon's nodes, basically. And so Mercury was conjunct the North Node yesterday, will conjunct again on March the 17th, then Mercury will station direct on March the 20th and will conjunct the North Node again on March the 23rd. But not only that, on the eclipse that we will look at, Venus will be conjunct the North Node as she emerges from under the beams of the sun, officially 10 degrees either side. Whether you actually see her or not will depend where you are in the world. But whilst those two met at just 9 degrees, the nodes are going to sit at 8 degrees right through these eclipses. So the next Mercury conjunctions are at 8 degrees. Venus conjunct the North Node is at 8 degrees. I think Pallas Athena conjunct the North Node is at 8 degrees. And Mercury will station direct at 8 degrees Pisces. So that is a real hot spot. So just keep that in your mind when you look at the charts that we're going to look at. Of course, the North Node is kind of what we're pulled towards in a way, but it can also, Pisces can also kind of be it can be almost like what eats us up because we hunger for it so much. And so I think that's a lot of the deception and Darvo that we're seeing, as well as the Saturn in Pisces at the end of the zodiac there. So anything to say on that before we quickly move through the other days?
I just want to clarify that the reason that Mercury is going to go over this spot 3 times is implied. Mercury will be going retrograde on the 26th of February. So it goes over
that's
at once.
In my list. Yeah.
Oh, right. But to explain to people why it's doing that, that's because it's going to go back and forth over it. So if you're wondering, well, the bottom line is Mercury is going to be in Pisces for a very, very long time.
And Mercury, is one of the fastest moving planets. So, well, it is the fastest moving actual planet. So, anyway, so on to the 13th, and I'm just going to mention a couple of aspects. or one before we look at the big one. So the sun is moving towards the end of Aquarius. To go back to what we've been talking about, again, look at this, how these planets are all progressing through the last two signs of the zodiac and starting to move into Aries. But the sun has reached 25 Aquarius and will sextile before that, just before that, will sextile the table turner Eris, fire and air. So we see more and more people. Actually, I find one way I've seen it is I mentioned before that the Black Panther guy who is doing these YouTube videos and has a thing called Standards Not Force to create a movement of strategies to counter what's happening. That kind of feels very Aquarius Aries to me, of finding new strategies, new ideas, innovative ways, which is very Aquarius, to fight for outsiders, which is Eris, or to turn tables on what's happening. I'm sure there's lots of other examples. So do you want to say anything on that before we move to the biggie that's happening today?
Interestingly, the way some of that opening might play out with a link between the sun in Aquarius and Eris in Aries might actually take a page from the myth of Eris, because she was, didn't she give Paris the golden, she ended up stirring trouble.
She had the golden apple. Well, it depends on various myths, but it said to the most beautiful, basically, on the apple. She actually threw the apple into the wedding of all these elites, gods and goddesses, which, to cut a long story short, made them all fight over who was the fairest. And so she just threw the apple in, and then they all fought, and that led to the Trojan War and the fall of Troy. But a lot of myths blame Eris for it, but I think Eris just showed kind of the vanity and disgusting behaviors of the elites. Anyway, there you go.
So my point in bringing up that myth is a strategy could be tossing chum into these situations and let those people fight amongst themselves, which is starting to happen.
Exactly. Yes. So, Eris is often, in some people, been painted as hate, but I don't see her as hate. I think she hates what people do, But anyway, I could go on and on about Eris, and I won't. So later on today, 7:11 p.m. Eastern Time, always set for DC on my charts, Saturn leaves Pisces for the last time in the next 27-ish, 27, 28 years, and reaches the world point 0 Aries. And we've talked about Saturn-Neptune conjunction in so many things. I've done it in other videos. Kathy's done it in presentations. But this is a world point, and this is the first time the two will meet conjunct on the 20th since for over 6,300 years. So, and it's a big deal, as well as it being something they do every 36-ish years. So this is a new beginning in so many ways, and it's boundaries and boundlessness, or making the intangible tangible, and there's many ways you could look at Saturn Neptune. I'll let you add to that.
What I'll add to this is that Saturn was briefly in Aries with Neptune in Aries. It moved in
last year,
late in May, and it was there till the end of August. And how interesting that we've got a story live, a scandal, a question coming up that involves something that happened in May when Saturn was making the changeover from the end of Pisces to the beginning of Aries. I don't think it's a coincidence.
I don't either. So Saturn and Neptune were both dipped into Aries, but as Kathy said, but they didn't actually meet exactly. So, but you would feel, they were so close right back then. So yes, revisiting that time, but it's also a massive big deal for where we're headed collectively
Oh,
as well.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, I think it's empowering. There is a piece of
Mm,
this that is empowering individuals very,
yeah.
very, very much. And if you hear anybody freaking out or saying, oh my God, this is more of the rise of autocracy, I think quite the contrary, because throughout history, every time Saturn and Neptune get really close together, power structures dissolve, and those
Hmm.
who didn't have power end up with more of it.
Yeah. And it's
And
almost like the power that was built on false, you know,
mhm.
ground, if you like. So yeah, it's huge. So, but as soon as Saturn goes in today, you will really start to feel this kick in. Saturn in Aries is very determined, I think, right? So
Oh,
if you look at that
absolutely.
alone.
Oh, well, and where I was heading was, oh, and the fact that this conjunction is in Aries is what I think is empowering so many individuals,
Mm,
uh,
hmm.
instead of, well, anyway, just wait.
Yeah.
I mean, I call it the rise of the spiritual warrior, but it also
Hmm.
does bring creativity into being. It brings new forms, and it's going to be working. We'll be feeling something dissolving because it's going across the bottom of the US chart, and we have discussed
Hmm.
this in earlier
Hmm.
videos. So there is a dissolution going on and a restructuring of how things are fundamentally set up here.
Yeah, definitely. And since it's on my south node, I can tell you that that's exactly what it feels like. So I'm not going to look at the 14th. There was no major aspects. And I'll quickly mention, not going to hover on them too long though, but Mars and Vesta are conjunct on the 15th. Mars is our action, our drive will. Vesta asteroid is both the kind of flame of the state, literally all the states. But this is a drive towards the future in so many ways. So and I'll just mention as well that Venus and Pallas Athena also meet on February the 15th, just still under the beams of the sun, but they're out of it now, and they are heading towards that north node rapidly. And I always think of Venus and Pallas Athena as almost like I call Pallas Athena Venus squared sometimes because look at the
Look
symbol,
at the square, yeah.
or diamond, a bit harder edge to it kind of
Hmm.
thing, because it's more strategy and kind of like seeing things clearly. So I saw a great article on Stacey Patton's um, Substack. She's a great writer, a black woman, and she talked about the history of like the worst of the worst white women, how Pam Bondi is one of them. And here we have those two meeting. But anyway, so, so
I just say
anything to
watch,
say on those 2?
even though it's a Sunday, there could be something very important that happens
Mm, could be.
on
Yep.
Sunday.
But Venus and Pallas Athena meet right at the end of the day, 11:54 p.m. So it could emerge. You could wake up to it on Monday
That's
too,
true.
because on February the 16th, whilst those are really still together, the Sun squares Uranus, and this is the day before the eclipse as well. And of course, Uranus is the modern guide or ruler for Aquarius. And, this is Venus sign over here. But this is kind of speaks to me of massive ahas and
Hmm.
breaking news and revelations and all kinds of things, right?
And that happens on top of uh, the moon, which is the people, in the July 4th, 1776 chart. So there could be real mobilization, galvanizing. I would
Hmm.
imagine that money is going to be a factor, that the
It
economy
could
is going to
be.
be a factor, that funding because of Uranus and uh,
Hmm.
Taurus being involved, but also could be women, could be, I mean, there's so many ongoing issues that this could be part of.
Yep. But I've heard many people mocking Pam Bondi saying, but look at the Dow. The Dow is over 50,000. Well, we all know that's manipulated now. So anyway, Mercury. Also on the 16th, Mercury will trine Jupiter, make an unbroken flow. You can see this blue supportive aspect here. But this will happen at 1553 Pisces Cancer. And Jupiter doesn't station direct yet, but is now at the station degree that it will station direct at. And Mercury is, heading towards its retrograde where it's going to revisit things. So Mercury will make this aspect 3 times as well. And that's big things appearing, in my opinion. Big news, but things that we've not seen. Anyway.
Women, children, families, food, general nurturing, all those
of
things.
That stuff. Yeah.
None of that's been in the news lately.
No, not at all. I'm not going to get the eclipse exact, but we do have the eclipse on the 17th. Venus will be at 8 degrees conjunct the North Node, again, to go back to what I mentioned already. Eclipses are like cosmic catalysts in a way. They catalyze change. Some call them a big reset. This is a massive eclipse, in my opinion. It's actually at 28 Aquarius, where the sun was when it was just before it's, or just after it's squared Uranus. What emerges from this eclipse is going to be huge.
I have 2 things I'd like to add to that. And the first is, even though there is something explosive, catalytic, no going back, going on with this eclipse, the fact that Venus and the node is so close together tells me that we're operating from a base of, it's there, love, compassion, unity, figuring out ways we're all together rather than different. And there could be, I mean, if there is some just explosive event that happens, it ends up unifying people. The second thing I want to put in this is, I'm just going to jump ahead. Mars is going to hit this eclipse point at the beginning of March. So we will see, and March is a trigger. Mars makes things happen. So we'll see a multiple detonation coming off of this.
We will.
And it won't be until, I think, it might not be until April that Uranus squares the eclipse point exactly. So multiple black cats going off. When I was a kid, people used to take strings of explosive called black cats and set fire to them and throw them down in the sewers, and you hear this. Yeah, that's kind of what this is like. Only it's more than a sound.
It is, and to go back to the process that we keep talking about, everything is just moving this way. I mean, Pluto will stay in Aquarius, but apart from that, all of these energies are moving this way and the energy in Aries in April is just like wild. But anyway, too much to look at in one go. But anyway, so 18th, the big thing that day is that Pisces season starts. So only Mars and Vesta of the faster moving energies left in Aquarius. And so the Pisces energy is just off the charts of both kind of amniotic fluid before birth, but also I always think of it as what happens to the chrysalis at the bottom, because that's the caterpillar actually literally breaks down and reorganizes its cells for rebirth. So Pisces season, though. Happy birthday, Pisces. But the big aspect the very next day, on the 20th, is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that we've all been waiting for so long. But as we've already said, you've been feeling this for quite some time, right? So, and I think we've kind of talked about that already, but is there anything you want to add?
I'd just like to look at the fact that Mars and Vesta are still close together, and they're in a sextile, like a door opening opportunity aspect to Ceres and Chiron and Eris, and that could be very interesting with
Oh,
what it makes possible for to have happen.
mm. Oh, definitely. Yeah, as Mars will already have sextiled Eris. I didn't include the sextiles because so many things
Oh, right. That
going.
just caught my eye.
Yeah, no, but yeah, you know, just the two of them sextiling this three, who are all moving closer together as well, as people will see as we move forward. But one other aspect on the 20th, as these two meet, is that Mercury will be conjunct Centaur Nessus. And we've talked about Centaur Nessus many times. How it's kind of the phrase that Melanie Reinhardt uses is the buck stops here. But it's about revealing the toxins and the abuses of power. And Mercury is the messenger. So more abuses of power. We're going to see more. And then Mercury is going to conjunct Nessus 3 times too, because of its retrograde. It's going to go retrograde at 22 degrees and go back over Nessus and then back over again, because Nessus moves quite slowly.
So that tells me that something might start coming to the surface
Mm.
as Saturn and Neptune conjunct that we get a little more about. It's like more to the story, more to the story, more to the
Oh,
story.
and to just add one little other piece, this conjunction is at the midpoint of that sextile that Kathy pointed out, and midpoints kind of matter. So the Ceres, Chiron, and Eris, pretty much, and Mars, Vesta, and this conjunction that will repeat 3 times are speaking to each other, and are going to drive people to take action more, I think. Mm-hmm.
I have one more piece I'd like to
Mm,
ask you about that
mm.
I never remember what this is, so that means people can also learn with me. That little glyph at 12 degrees Capricorn is.
Mm. Pholus, Centaur Pholus, which I always call like the Pandora's box, or have you been, or kind of have you been integrity kind of Centaur.
And it's square the moon as that
Mm-hmm.
conjunction is exact,
It is.
meaning that people could be really catalyzed. The moon, I mean, people on the warpath. I see this as this lineup as angry mothers coming to get someone.
Angry people too, though, and I
Mhm.
think that's going to be reflected when I talk about what's happening in my state right now, because
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
feel
yeah.
this. I feel this energy, and so do my other fellow progressives, or whatever you want to call them. So on to the 21st, because we're going on long. Pallas Athena, we've already talked about her. She conjuncts the North Node, so I'm not going to kind of talk about that too much in detail. But February the 22nd, that's when Mars exactly sextiles Chiron. But you can see these are getting closer together. Ceres is the fastest moving, so it's going to move up to Chiron. Chiron and Eris have been traveling together for some time, and they are going to conjunct. You'll just see this little pile up here, which in my opinion is very healing, but it's calling people to really fight for their rights, in my opinion. And Mars is the fighter, so, and is the ruler of Aries. So there you go. Any more on that?
Oh no, no. Mm-mm.
No.
Thank you.
And then Venus will trine Jupiter. And I can't remember the date. Oh, I should. August the 12th last year. I should remember. Venus and Jupiter and fixed star Sirius, which is called the sun of our sun, all met at 14 degrees Cancer. Now Venus has gone all the way around here, and now Venus sextiles Jupiter as Jupiter's about to station direct again. So I wouldn't be surprised if something starts to come back from August last year as well.
Oh, that would make sense.
Oh, does it? Oh, cool. Good.
Yeah, that does make sense. Also, I think
Mm,
with Venus square Jupiter, it's going to really, really um, make like a swelling of women's issues and the arts, and there may be female
mm,
performers who get really prominent over something, or we may have the whole issue of the survivors just drowning everything.
mm. Good.
something really big. It's big. It's big.
It is big. So 23rd, Mars will then sextile Eris to go back to that, and Vesta then starts to sextile Ceres. So to go with what Kathy pointed out, these two here and this little collection here are really working together during this period. And then we're in the between eclipse period now, which is always quite a powerful period as well. So anything to add on that while I just get up what I'm going to look at quickly next?
Yeah, it's a real volatile time, the eclipse
Oof.
gauntlet, the time between eclipses. So
It is. And then on to the 26th, which is a really big day, but I have set it to when Mercury goes retrograde. So Mercury goes retrograde. I love the numbers, by the way. 22 degrees, 33 minutes. Pisces will go back to 8 degrees, as we've mentioned. And, for those that like numerology as well, I will just mention that master numbers are very powerful, which are the double numbers. But, this is, this Mercury, to my mind, this retrograde in Pisces, it's just going to reveal more and more and more and more stuff that we have not seen before. In a nutshell. On the same day, Venus will meet Nessus. So, Mercury was just there. Now Venus is there. More toxins being revealed. And, they're both free now, these two, Mercury and Venus, from the sun. So, they're really back online, taking action. So more names perhaps being read out. I don't know, more stuff coming out for sure.
and possibly a woman being set up to take a fall
Oh, let's
with the
hope
buck
it's the
stops
right
here and
one.
Venus. Well, we'll see.
Yes. Anyway, also on the 26th, because it is a big day, Ceres is moving quite fast right now.
Mm.
She actually conjuncts Chiron. And I will mention that Eris sat at 23 degrees because she moves really slowly for most of 2023 and probably the years around it. So, more things are going to come back that we've not seen happening in the background, I think. But Ceres conjunct Chiron, just on a more mundane level, is really about fighting for yourself, for your needs, but then coming together and doing it collectively as well. So, okay. And Chiron at the same time sextiles Vesta, so you can see all this 23 happening. So, and the last aspect on that day is just one that I thought I'd slot in, is that Venus will, at the same time as it meets Nessus, will sextile Juno, which is our sacred contracts with each other, which is nice, I think. So, as you said, somebody taking the fall because they aren't meeting our sacred contracts with each other. 27th, Vesta will join that party, will sextile Eris, and then Mars and Vesta will leave that ongoing fire and air aspect between this cluster over here after that. But it's going to be very active in the in between eclipse
And
time.
that could very easily take the form of people fighting for their country. Fighting for their country.
Absolutely. Mars is on the US moon, by the way, on that day too.
At
So.
that point.
Yeah. And then on to the 27th as well. The sun meets the North Node as well at 8 degrees. Told you that was a hot point. I forgot to mention the sun doing it. So Mercury 3 times. Venus will pass it conjunct exactly on the eclipse. Then the sun will. Pallas Athena also was conjuncted. So this is a really hot point through the eclipses in a huge way, more than normal. So, and then another big aspect on the 27th, Mars. This is going to be a little bit spicy, shall we say, on the US moon will square Uranus. And Uranus is still at its station direct degree. was stationed direct on February the 3rd, so it's well past that, but it's still at the same degree, and it's on the moon, or Mars is on the moon of the USA. And as all these are closing cycles, this speaks to me of revolution really brewing in a big way. You?
Oh, there's so many ways this could play
Oh,
out. And there are
yeah.
some that would scare people if we mention them. So just
Yeah.
know things are going to, okay, this is, Mars is approaching the eclipse point. I said he hits it at early March.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a step toward seeing what is really happening for us collectively, for us as a nation, as a result of the February 17th solar eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to know, which we've discussed before, that that eclipse uh, blows up both Trump and Vance's charts.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are military action is one possible, and
Well,
you
they're
can,
talking about I, ice everywhere. It's how there's, and we're
right, but it
paying
could,
for these people, by the way.
well, absolutely, well,
Yeah,
except
yeah.
the funding's been frozen, but
Mm,
there, if there could be action toward, it's not completely far-fetched action toward removal of these individuals because of something that
mm,
happens. And this might be premature for it, but
mm.
it's a possibility.
Or some of the generals could be at least starting to talk about it.
Hmm.
Anyway,
That was what I was
so
thinking.
yeah, on the 28th, and this kind of speaks to that in a way a little bit as well, because on the 28th, the very next day, Mercury and Venus meet at Mercury's station retrograde degree. So conversations around all the things, money, relationships, women, everything. Yeah.
And that brings back into the discussion something I mentioned earlier, which is we have a base of operations that is not angry, that we can
Mm,
dip into for everything that is going on here. So this could
mm,
be peaceful warrior type
yeah.
stuff
Mm.
happening, or
More
the just.
and more strategic, more kind of
Mhm.
yeah, not just sitting there going kumbaya, pray for peace, which is
Oh, no,
good
no.
too. But this is yeah, yeah.
But this is like
Hmm.
the organizing that's been going on in Minneapolis, of people sitting outside
Yes.
the federal building and picking up people who are just being dropped off with nothing, and organizing and taking care of them. It's that kind
Hmm.
of, or singing, I mean, that sounds like a stupid thing, but the
Mm,
power of these messages coming out at very, very angry militaristic people, it does have a way of softening things.
mm,
So that's the kind of energy that's on tap, while
yep.
these really, let's just call them spicy, that's a good word for it, influences ignite.
Mm. And so on the same day, quickly I mentioned Vesta again in a flame, but also the flame of the state will sextile Eris. But look where all these three are at 24 degrees on that day too. So this is again, it's just repeating really what we kind of said, finding those innovative different ways, all that blah blah blah. Ceres will conjunct Eris on March the 1st. Oh, and Mars is at the eclipse degree, by the way, on the 28th and March the 1st, because Kathy mentioned that. So,
Hmm.
and Mercury, now retrograde, will sextile Juno again. I didn't mention the first one, but this one is these two really doing it together. We kind of mentioned that what that will mean.
Do
Mm-hmm.
you know what that could be?
Mm?
Revelations of hidden deals, of
Oh, it
agreements
could.
that were made, because it's Mercury
Mm.
retrograde in
Actual
Pisces.
Yeah, and Mercury relates to contracts, deals, if you like, as well, but
Mhm.
Juno does to a degree. Marriage contracts, sacred contracts. So, anyway, and another big thing happening Mars moves into Pisces March the 2nd. So now we've only got Vesta of the faster moving energies left in Aquarius. And everything is piled up in Pisces and starting to move into Aries. So endings, endings, endings. Mars in Pisces is more spiritual warrior, like Neptune in Aries is as well, though. So that's also that bringing these more peaceful approaches in many ways. Mm-hmm.
I'll also point out that water erodes. Pisces erodes. It's relentless. It's just subtle and just keeps going lap, 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 lap. If you've ever had your house flooded, you know what water does to material objects. It reshapes riverbanks, it reshapes stones. This is yeah.
And then on the same day, the Sun meets Pallas Athena, that strategic one, but it's all in Pisces, like, you know, we're repeating ourselves. But the last day, I'm just going to finish on the next eclipse. We're probably not going to look at that in detail till next week because
Yeah.
we've got other things we want to look at. But the lunar total eclipse is March the 3rd. And so I just want to show like all this Pisces energy and then the Aries really. And so this is a lunar eclipse though, full moon eclipse, shining both lights on things. It's a blood red moon, which a lot of people fear, but I've always found that it can just shine a light on a lot of things. I will mention it's aspecting Pholus that we talked about, and Sun is still conjunct Pallas Athena and the moon, and it's close to the nodes. This is the closer to the nodes than the annular solar eclipse, and this is the last eclipse fully in Virgo Pisces, right? So I think.
Oh no, there's one. The cycle continues into next spring.
It does, but don't the node shift signs
Yeah,
before
that's
next
right. That's
spring?
true.
That's what
Yeah,
I mean
yeah,
with the
okay. Yeah, by the time we
yeah.
have the next node, yeah, it'll
Yeah.
have changed.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I meant. Yeah. So, so it emphasizes the Virgo Pisces axis, which is going to be really important when we look at all the other charts.
A couple of things. The lunar eclipse brings massive revelations, and it's also chapter closing and big, big, big endings. And this one is making what's called a grand cross across the U.S. chart, and meaning that, or the Sibley chart, the July 4th chart, meaning that there's a big, which way are we going? What's our identity? Who are our allies? All kinds of things in that regard. And I realized
And
last
perhaps
night
next week we'll show people that chart.
where that
Yeah.
goes. But I just want but I want to just stick in people's minds that a grand cross is when there are 4 points that are in an action demanding aspect to each other, and they're all kind of like you could go this way or that way. And this is in mutable signs, meaning it could really, really flow and be very, very flexible. And we had a mutable grand cross in the sky in June 2016 during Brexit and during that weird Trump Tower meeting that had something to do with Russian adoptions or whatever. So there are, just put in the back of your head, there's a connection. There's something connected, and we may learn some big things.
And on that note, Mercury is 1 minute from the exact conjunction, the second one with Nessus revealing toxicity and abuses of power again for the second time on the eclipse.
On the eclipse.
So whereas this new moon solar eclipse that we have first is the dark moon, big things beginning, this one is going to shine a big red light on a lot of things. So huge. So charts. Do you mind if I look at Utah first to get my anger out of the way? So why am I looking at Utah? Because Utah is a hub of what is going on right now. If you noted, this is the Utah chart for the day that Utah was became a state. Before that, it was a territory. And so I set it for midday because I couldn't find a time. But first thing I notice is that it's got a Virgo moon, a south node. It's Utah is approaching its nodal return. So, but it's also got Nessus conjunct the north node on these eclipses. So these eclipses are going to hit this Virgo Pisces axis. But I also want to mention that the sun for the state of Utah is at 13 Capricorn, which directly opposes the US sun. Exactly. So if I could just tell people what's going on. The SAVE Act, which about the voter ID, and that's part of it anyway, big part of it, is not likely to pass the Senate, but Utah is going to pass that bill here. Basically, we've got our own bill that's gone through all the committees, all the amendments, and it's going to pass because our state legislature is all MAGA, basically. The other thing that is happening in Utah is that they are trying to introduce a state constitutional amendment to stop ballot initiatives because they don't like the ballot initiative that we have. That is going to give Democrats one seat. So both they are trying to disenfranchise people through these voter ID laws. Because if you look how restrictive they are really restrictive if you're not registered to vote. And I wouldn't be surprised if people in Utah find themselves purged and have to re-register and go through all these hoops, particularly if they're women. So Utah is kind of like the hub of what's happening now. And I just want to show one other picture if I could. And then I'll let Kathy give some insights. But my point for showing all this is really that the states, are kind of their back door into these changes as well. Now, I did a recording with Julia Simmers of Cosmic Intelligence Agency the other day about geodetic maps. And basically, this is a fixed world map. And these lines are the signs moving that way. So Utah has about a midheaven of around 12 Sagittarius, which is the US ascendant. And these are the rising signs and going that way as well. So the ascendant here, where this hub of where they are trying to take away our rights, is on the eclipse pretty much. You just can't make astrology up in this time. So I could have worked it out exactly, but I just didn't have the time to figure out how because they're new to me. But these geodetic maps are showing up for big events. So Utah is kind of a hub right now for all of this. So did you want to look at the chart again and just add anything?
Oh, well, I just want to explain to people that part of why it is problematic for women is if you marry and your name is different than what was on your birth certificate, you may have to pay for a passport. In a sense, this is a poll tax. And by the way, if your passport is coming up for renewal, it might be really good to go ahead and get it
now.
done, because if these sorts of things start passing, the passport office is going to be overwhelmed.
And also, if you don't have a certain type of marriage certificate, often there's like long form and short form ones and things like that. Or if, like me, you are from another country, you have to go through all kinds of hoops to get all these certificates verified. We had to do it to get citizenship. I might have to do it again to get my vote if they don't take citizenship away from us. So I'm really concerned by this because this is passing in Utah.
And I would notice that Utah's Jupiter is on the U.S. South Node. I'm not sure what.
No, North Node. That's the North Node.
Oh, North Node. Sorry. Interesting.
No.
Okay. And Mars is on the ascendant. Interesting. So it's a player. It's a player in national policy.
It is. And if people don't know a lot about Utah, because everybody thinks of the southern states when they talk about the deep red states,
Oh no.
it's run by the Mormon Church basically, and the Mormon Church is a cult. So I wore my cult T-shirt, which is basically a big um, organization that raises huge amount of money. It's a corporation. It may have started off differently, but it is. Utah is the hub of Mormon Church, and most of our legislature are Mormons, and so that's an interesting side to it all in itself. I just noticed as well though that the big conjunction back in January of 2020 of what was there? There was Ceres, there was Saturn, Pluto, all of those things at 22 Capricorn were on the Mercury of Utah. So our evil senators, particularly Mike Lee, have been planning this for a long time.
Yeah.
We even had an attorney general who stopped working for Utah, even though we're paying him, and went to work for Trump. So let's look at the other players. Who would you like to look at first? Kushner or?
Let's get Bondi out of the way.
Mm.
Because I think he's going to be the upcoming news. She's current news. He's going to be upcoming news.
I'm sure most people, if in this country at least, saw her testimony, which I said is Darvo, or you can find samples of it online, but just look at this for a start. The eclipses, again, Pisces, Virgo, we don't have a time. But her moon, which is the people, but also her mother, is conjunct Pluto and Uranus. She has one of the tightest Pluto-Uranus conjunctions I've seen, which means for people born in the 60s. I'm not making any excuses for the woman, but this is a trauma signature in a big way. And I had when I was watching her on these hearings, I kept thinking trauma bonding. Why is she doing this? It's all opposing her Chiron and her Ceres and her Saturn. From all kinds of stories, her family life seemed quite normal, and her dad was a Democrat and an educator and things, but there was something going on there. Immediately I see it. I'm not by no means making excuses, but I've done it with Trump as well on a series presentation I did for Kepler. Their chart shows how they're taking out their trauma onto us, the world, I think.
Well, the point that it comes out is that Mercury in Sagittarius, which is this ideology or the stuff that the stuff that she says and her belief systems. And I just like to point out to people, we don't have a birth time for her.
No.
So this is a chart set at noon with the sun put on the ascendant. It's a solar chart.
But that Mercury in Sag is also square to this.
It's the T-square. It's the focal point of that T-square.
Yeah, talking about the eclipses being in Virgo Pisces.
And this week we've mentioned that Saturn was finishing up its time in Pisces. So while she was ranting and screaming about the stock market and don't you dare call me a liar, Saturn was squaring her Jupiter in Gemini. So crazy stuff just flying out and saying things for the daddy figure, the Saturn in Pisces.
I did her progress chart. I saw her Saturn at 13, but anyway, never mind. So we'll just go back to that one.
Oh, the second point is that what is going to come from this? Well, that March 3rd eclipse, for one thing, goes
which
across.
I will put on it. Yeah. While Kathy talks,
it's going to stir up that particular area that we were talking about, but also we don't usually look at progressed charts, Louise and I, when we're doing these discussions for you, but I did this morning, and her Saturn is directly in the line of fire of the eclipse. So it's at 13 Pisces, her progressed Saturn. So it's down there. If you see where the total lunar eclipse there is there at,
Whereas where the sun is, the sun
that's where,
in the eclipse is at 12 Pisces and her progressed Saturn is at 13. So very
right. Well,
close.
well,
Mm,
it's at 12:53, so they're like
mm,
right there.
hmm
And that could end her authority
And it's
or
aspecting her Venus.
her Venus, her money planet, her
Mm,
institutional planet. So the
hmm
seeds of her ejection could be here. The
Oh,
seeds of
yes.
her breaking of a relationship with her daddy figure could be
hmm
here.
And to go to something that, I'm usually like, don't pay too much attention to every Mercury retrograde. I hate the fear around it, but this Mercury retrograde is going back over all this stuff and opposing all of this stuff here that we talked about. So,
And I note that
mhm.
a question that was not asked of her that may come up is, did you know Jeffrey Epstein personally?
Yes, yes. There has been talk of photos of her with him, but then most of them have been debunked. There was one that I erroneously shared on Facebook that turns out to be a model, but that's the whole thing about the
Mhm.
modeling agencies back then. But you know, I think she did. She is born in Florida.
Went to law school in Florida, so I don't know. I don't
hmm
know. Anyway, more to come, and this eclipse will be revealing a lot, and it will directly affect her authority and her position.
Yep. So even if we acknowledge we've got no time of birth, just using the sun on the solar sign chart, the first eclipse is right at the bottom of her chart. And I'm going to guess that her moon is around that right degree that we got because of just what we're seeing happening in her life.
Since
hmm
you mentioned the
hmm
Aquarius eclipse,
hmm
uh, it's going to create a T square. Okay,
Oh, to her
so she
sun.
has her sun's at 25 degrees Scorpio. The eclipse is at 28 degrees um, Aquarius, which is also in that stressful, and that's hitting the whole basis of her chart, the basis of everything,
hmm hmm
foundation, and it's also knocking out the tent pole that's her career and her place in the world. So this is
Yes,
not an insignificant time for her. This is not something she's going to
not at
skate
all.
through.
And the first solar eclipse at 28 degrees is making a nice air grand trine to Jupiter. There's going to be more stuff coming out about her,
Lots
but
more.
there's also lots, lots, and she doesn't seem to care. Oh my god, I've never seen anybody so brazen. The way she said, "I'm not going to answer your question. I'm going to answer the question I want to answer." I was like, "What?" Anyway, somebody called it like Jekyll and Hyde, and I'd say yeah, she's like Jekyll and Hyde. Anyway, so the other one.
Yep.
Now, Kathy, I'm going to let Kathy take the lead on this. Do you want this? Which eclipse do you want up, or where do you want me to put the chart?
Uh, let's start with, okay, notice this is again a solar chart. We don't have a time.
Mm,
However, if you look in the second house, money, the moon is somewhere in the middle degrees of Pisces, meaning that the solar eclipse on the 3rd of March is going to,
lunar,
uh,
lunar.
I'm sorry, the lunar, thank you, thank you, thank you. The
hmm
lunar eclipse on the
hmm
3rd of March is going to reveal things about who he's been involved
mm,
with, involving money and hidden deals, possibly with Pisces being there and blurring boundaries. And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that could be part of it. And his progressed chart, again, I just thought for grins I would look at it. His
Mm.
progressed Mars is at 13 Pisces. So how he's
Oh.
been using his action in behind the scenes, hidden way
Mm.
will be, there'll be something revealing it. And this is another
Mhm.
possible, I know we're always so hopeful, jettison moment, but
Mhm.
um, messy, messy, messy. This is not one they're going to be able to sweep under the carpet. Increasingly, so for those of you who are sometimes moving into despair or, oh my God, nothing ever
Mm.
happens, I want to point out certain topics aren't going away. And so this
Mhm.
is now moving into the category of a topic that's not going away.
So it might not jettison them immediately, but yeah, it's. But can I just add to and then I want to put the solar eclipse on because that's hitting him big time too. But to add to, this is his Vesta, the state in the sign of Virgo. His Vesta is exactly at the midpoint of these two. The moon on the solar eclipse
Ooh,
and the south node of what we're leaving behind. Hmm. And in the
this,
solar chart, it's in the house of secrets, but we're not sure it's in the house. But all
I'm
of it shows to this whistleblower secret thing is going to come out, I think.
I'm going to say this has something to do with Israel.
Oh,
With Vesta in the eighth house because he's very, very connected to that country. Very
oh,
connected.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, I would not be surprised at all. So I'm going to get the other eclipse up, the solar eclipse, because that's also hitting him big time. So the solar eclipse is at 28 Aquarius in his second solar house, but it's square his Uranus and square transiting Uranus, forming a really disruptive T square. This is huge.
Changing something about his money and how he earns his living and revealing
Mm.
things about gamble risk taking that's the fifth house,
Yeah.
taking risks, invest, speculation, there we go. And the 11th
Mm.
house, groups, circles of friends, circles of influence, uh, yeah, something. So
Mm-hmm. But it
the
might not emerge till Uranus opposes his natal Uranus for the second time. So Uranus has got a little bit of a way to go before that. But as Kathy said, this is kind of starting things that are not going away.
not going
And
away.
this is radical as all heck. This is stuff that's affected the people of the USA, the moon of the USA
Hmm.
being there.
Hmm.
Oh, it's huge.
Shocking, and it involves money and things that have been hidden and very likely
Mm.
things that are not legal
Oh,
for entertainment
absolutely.
purposes only.
Yeah. So anything else you want to say about him?
Nope.
I think that's enough.
I think it's more than enough.
Oh, so, you know, honestly, guys, it really doesn't seem like things are going well. I mean, I've been like burning up with fury about what's happening in Utah right now, but I don't think it's going to stick ever. I still think we're going to come out of this okay. It's just all happening to get us all to fight for ourselves, I think, really. So,
I think we're in the process of being shot out of the wormhole, and by the
mm-hmm.
summer, things will be vastly, vastly, vastly different.
Oh,
So, as always, focus on I don't mean put your head in the sand.
yeah.
Focus on the experiences around you that make you glad you're alive and that support other people and that build connection. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what's going to fuel all of this, like what it is you value, and that
Mm-hmm.
is what you're going to fight for. And as Saturn moves into Aries and joins up with Neptune, this is a not on my watch moment. This is people
Mm.
going, nope, nope, this far and no further, here we go. And human walls, human, you
Yeah.
name it. uh, so find your own places of refuge and comfort and regulate your own involvement in things so that
Hmm.
you don't burn out. But I think you're going to find that there are more and more moments of balm, BALM, coming to
Mm.
you with all this beautiful Pisces energy, particularly as Venus heads for the North
Mm.
Node.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And you're going to start seeing more things like the monks,
Mhm.
and like that blank Black Panther guy who's just he's so calm. He's just like, nope, we're just going to do it this way. We're just going
Mhm.
to do this. Anyway, so until next time, this is a long one, but bye.